Hey, this is Brent.
Hey, this is Jordan.
What's up? This is Matt.
Hey, this is Sean.
And this is the Digital Ascent Podcast.
Welcome, everybody. This is episode 0010, and we have Jordan and Matt and Brent and myself, and we will be primarily focusing on early access games and kind of how we feel about those and what we think are some good ones, some bad ones, whether or not we think it's worth it overall as a structure, and a whole bunch of goodies. But first off, we're going to go through and talk about the new Bing ChatGPT integration and kind of what that looks like. And I guess the first thing is, has anyone actually subscribed yet? Because I have not.
Like
To regular ChatGPT, sorry. Yeah.
No, I have not. I think $20 is just a lot of money to ask for what they're offering through Bing. No, I have not been. I have been waitlisted. I'm off the waitlist, so I have access to what I'm referring to as new Bing, and I wish I was calling it I wish I was calling it Cortana. That would have been so much cooler. But nope.
That would have been so cool.
Cortana
Really a
is
missed
terrible.
Just absolute miss. But nope, not Cortana. Yes, new Bing in. And no, I'm not subscribing for $20 a month. I would have paid like $5 maybe. I don't know. What about you guys? Anybody else subscribing?
I'm not subscribing, and that's my one worry about being so excited about new AI and ChatGPT and the new Bing. It's like, man, I really hope this is something that stays free, but it's getting really hard to like imagine a future where like cool stuff is not tied behind a paywall. You know what I'm saying? So
It's
I'm
never
even
free.
trying not
It's
to get
never
attached
free.
to Bing, you know. So
Right now you pay in beta testing.
yeah,
I mean, that's
which
not
I'm
sure.
okay with.
We're beta. Yeah, I'm okay with that. That's a great price.
All
Are
right.
you kidding me? I get a ton out of it too.
Absolutely. Yeah, really, I do. And just I don't know, man. I've put it to use. I was telling somebody at work the other day. I needed to use ChatGPT for something. I got a little irritated because it was like in the morning, maybe like 10 o'clock. And I guess that's like peak hours for ChatGPT. And I couldn't get in. They were like, there's too many people using this right now. So like, I get it. I understand. And it also helps like, I guess develop the tool set a little bit more. But Matt, I think you said it maybe just before we started recording, maybe just now. I can't remember, but $20 is too much. I'm not paying $20 a month for Google. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel bad
pay.
dismissing it like that, but I'm not paying $20.
That's okay. You bring up an interesting point, Matt. At some point, do you think it's viable for companies to pay for that for certain power users as like a business model? Because if they're doing, okay, I'm just curious how that looks though, because you're using an AI to do your job and it's doing your job. But I guess you have to have the prompts. So I don't know. That just seems weird to me to pay for an AI.
It's
to
very
give you
weird.
Answers.
You have to. I don't think you could use a tool like ChatGPT or the new Bing. Like you have to know what you're asking it in order to get what you need. You know what I'm saying? Like it's weird.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. It seems to be pretty flexible. I do think that it is a new resume skill set. Experience operating machine. Yeah, man, absolutely. Like it's got to be something experience working with machine learning neural network language models and using that for enhanced productivity or whatever, however you want to phrase it. But no, that's the truth. That's where we are.
I
right?
mean, it's just you had that off the cuff. It was you just rolled that like you already had it on your resume and stuff. Oh, that's funny.
I mean, I know people using it for work already with that because someone I know, I'm not gonna name drop in here, obviously, but someone I know is subscribing to it and feeds it alerts from work just to parse things out more efficiently. You know, it's pretty much
Right,
like
but
here's
see,
this
he has
big.
to-
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
This person has to
Right.
know what information it's putting into ChatGPT, and it has to know how to read the language or whatever answer it's going to spit back out. Like it couldn't go in there and say, "Hey, write me I guess it has to
No,
have
you
like
could
a second
simple it
set of
down,
eyes.
right?
Like with all of my,
You could
Yeah.
simplify it down though. You
Explain
could
like I'm
ask it,
5.
hey, explain explain like I'm 5. What does this mean, and how do I apply this?
What is
And I
eternal
would,
blue?
right?
that's
like,
I guess
okay,
that's fair. I'm just saying with all of the use cases that I've sat down and used it for work, like there's had to be a second pass. Like I could not take something that ChatGPT
Sure.
spit out and I couldn't throw that into an email without reviewing it first. Like there are more than enough errors. Maybe it's like it's the certain phrasing of things. I don't know. I'm a very specific speaker. You know what I mean? So like,
sure.
I don't know. Maybe I'm being unfair a little bit here. I just feel like it's a little. I think it's a little much at this point to say. You know what I mean? ChatGPT could help people kind of ghost through their jobs in its current standing. You know what I mean?
No. Yeah,
I don't know.
It's a productivity enhancer. You still need somebody competent enough to know if it's lying or
That's what I was trying to say,
misinforming
Matt. Thank you.
Or
Yes.
yeah, like that's like it's still not good enough to where it's absolutely trustworthy. I think that we are still a while away from that because right now we're feeding it, as far as I can tell, data from the internet, and the data is and the internet data is not entirely trustworthy, right? I mean, rule number 1: do not believe everything you read on the internet, right? And that's where the chatbot is right now, and it's still working on rule number 1. And so you still need that competent individual. I see a lot of value of integrating it with work. I wish I had some sort of agreement in place where I could send it data like in a confidential manner and not just like HTTPS. I mean, like I want to be able to feed it meaningful proprietary data and request information analysis of some sort back. And right now I just don't feel comfortable doing that because I don't really like it's covered under the privacy policy, but like I don't really know. Like
Yeah,
I don't
it's still
think my
kinda sketch,
company
though.
would be happy with me. Yeah, right. Like I don't think my company would be happy with me giving over our proprietary data to Microsoft. Right? Like they're not in my vertical.
So Matt,
but
let me
it
ask you
doesn't-
something
Yeah.
because I'm curious. So you said you've been using, or wait, you were using the Bing integration with ChatGPT now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
how
all
is
hail the new
that?
king.
Okay. The question I have is fundamentally, what makes it superior to Google in how it operates or feeds you information?
Okay. So I want to say real quick that like there are some instances where it is still quicker to just use the Google card, and Bing has similar cards. I don't know how good they are because I just started using Bing for the first time in my life. But it has similar cards. Sometimes the cards are going to be faster than the chat. But the real advantage is when you need to synthesize a large amount of data and you need it streamlined, I
Okay,
want
give
to
me a
know
for instance.
about, I'm going. So I want to know about privilege identity management tools available to me through Microsoft. So if I start Googling that, I'm going to start getting white papers. If I go to if I go to New Bing, who I wish was Cortana, then what I'm going to get is a list of freaking tools and an overview of what each of these tools does. And then I can go back to it and say, tell me more about this tool, that tool, the other tool. And it'll spit it out. And what I'm not doing is reading white papers, which, I can do, but it's time
Gotcha.
consuming,
Okay.
and eventually I'm going to go back to the white papers, but man, it's really nice to quickly be able to get all those white papers condensed and then, be able to dig into each point. And I can say, tell me more about bullet point 2. And it just starts rattling off more data. It cites its sources. And it's very impressive. Yeah, go ahead.
That's what I really like, I think, about looking at this as just a search engine tool, right? Like ChatGPT by itself is a really awesome productivity tool. And that integration with Bing, even if you're not trying to figure out how to do something, like I was asking it questions about video games earlier, like a dumb little nerd. And I was just like, tell me a little bit about the story. And it popped up, like a normal, if you would type that into Google, you get your normal results, and now you're being pointed in all these different directions. But also on the side of that, there was a chat box very similar to ChatGPT. And now there's also this AI that's kind of putting together all of those results into one, summarized kind of paragraph, and it's citing its sources throughout the summarized, words. So if you have questions about specific lines, or as it's moving from topic point to topic point, you can now, with specificity, maybe more granularity is the right word, you can kind of hop into those and click those, sites, and they will take you to one of the links that's kind of at the top of that search result kind of splashback. So it's an awesome tool. And I think the numbers, there's a wait list right now. This is free for everybody. And I hope they don't, I don't know. It's in beta, so I don't know if there will ever be a price tied to it or anything like that. But I think Microsoft said when they launched the beta last week, they had something like 40 million people signed up on the wait list in the first 48 hours. It took me about 10 days, I think, to get access. So, if you're interested, all you got to do, we'll have the link in the show notes. But if you're interested, it's a really cool tool, and it's nice how they've kind of integrated it into Bing, the platform as a whole. You know what I mean? They got a nice little chat tab at the top, kind of hide away when you don't need to use it. It's awesome. It is. I will say its limitations, though. You can't. They've actually had to tweak it since they've rolled it out last week. And they've kind of they've put up some boundaries. Like people were asking it some really wonky questions, and it was kind of going off the rails a little bit. Nothing too crazy, but it was like, it was just really jokey stuff. The stuff that I saw, but inaccurate information, and like I don't want to say inaccurate, but like made up information. I don't know. I guess still false. So they patched some stuff.
Lies.
And yeah, that's it right there, right? And so they patched it. I think they put like a limitation on the type of stuff that you can ask it. And now it won't even go down those rabbit holes like ChatGPT will. It'll just kind of stop and say, hey, we need to move on to a new topic, like some real vanilla answer. You can't really, draw the conversations out so long as you could, with just the regular ChatGPT platform. So there are limitations. It's a search tool, productivity tool, first and foremost. That's what Bing or Microsoft wants it to be, at least with Bing.
So would you say that its utility comes from the fact that it can easily aggregate information in a more digestible way, rather than having just straight data coming at you from a search result and then having to pull that all together? Would that be an
absolutely?
Accurate
I was actually I was excited to not know what the topic was, and then when I asked and you said it was about video games, spoiler alert, I was like, okay, cool, I won't need to use ChatGPT. But had you given had somebody said a topic, I would have just went to Bing real quick and said, hey, tell me about this. Like I trusted enough to get me spun up just enough. No. You know what I mean? If I'm going to do a 5-minute search, I would much rather take the work now to go, hey, because right now I don't have it on my phone. It's just on my desktop. But like if I was really interested, if I really needed to know the answer, the granularity, the extra granularity that Bing is going to give me now, because it, just like you said, is it's kind of putting all those things together, it's citing them. The entire first page of search results is now summarized into 3 paragraphs that I can read and I can kind of click into as needed. And to me, that makes everything, it's like going through like a fandom wiki, you guys ever, Wikipedia, you're like, oh, let me click on that thing. And then you're at the end of that page and you see the related links at the bottom. You click on that thing. It allows you to do that right there, all while you were just doing a regular search. So you're getting more of what you want, which is information. And I think Bing is doing that in a really cool way that Google hasn't done before. So I'm excited to see how this works out, in the near future, the next year or so.
Cool. Anybody else got anything on the Bing integration with ChatGPT or AI?
I will say there's another competitor in the ring now. Competitor is being kind of generous. There's imitations out there. There's one at u.com that I've been playing around with, and it's like a whole another search engine with that kind of chat integration. It's literally like a clone of the layout that Microsoft has done with
Curious.
It's just kind of like it's like out of right field.
So what's been your experience so far? Like, I'm curious what the difference is between, because you've used GPT, so how has this one worked out for you?
I think I like the u.com one. I think is better as a search engine in terms of like if you want to find current information, it kind of does the similar route as to what Bing's doing, where it's citing the sources. So, I mean, that's useful just from the sheer fact of like, okay, is this thing feeding me legitimate information? I'm going to go check and validate this myself, sort of deal, validate my sources. But, to where ChatGPT typically it's not, it's drawing this conclusion based on whatever information that's been fed from wherever. I have no clue. And you have to kind of go like externally to go validate that information if you want to, or you just take it for what it's worth and you do what you got to do with it. So I will say that the more connected ones kind of instill a little bit more faith in like, okay, it's pulling it from these 3 articles, maybe one's from Forbes.com, maybe one's from this other outlet and, whatever. And you're like, okay, well, those are reputable places. I'm okay with this information. And then you can go ahead and use it. To where like on the flip side of that. Yeah, so I think they definitely have their uses.
It's all about how it puts it in front of you. That's really nice.
Right.
You know what I mean? About ease of access to me. I think that like makes this supreme,
But I will say like it's in terms of from what I've experienced so far, I've not played with Bing yet. So I don't know how good it is with the coding and scripting and stuff like that. But ChatGPT is pretty damn reliable with scripting and whatnot, and iterating on scripts and changing scripts and cleaning up scripts.
Yeah, I don't know in its current form. I don't think Bing could do that. You start to get too wonky, and like I said, those boundaries since they patched it a couple days ago, you start to get too wonky, and it'll just abruptly shut down like the conversation. Maybe it's I don't know. Never mind.
Maybe it's what you're asking, bro.
I've used ChatGPT to clean up so many old PowerShell scripts.
Maybe it's you. You ever thought about that?
Yeah, it's me. Man. I'm the problem.
I have Bing write me scripts. I mean, I still like find myself gravitating towards ChatGPT to actually do the script writing. But I've played around. Will Bing write this? Will Bing write that? Some things it'll straight up tell you no, sir, I do not do that. Good on you, Bing. Some things it's like, sure, I can spit out a script for that, no problem. So I feel like you could use Bing for it. I do think, like you said, it may shut down on you quicker.
All right, we're starting to get into the weeds of AI, which we're obviously want to do. But
I do want to give one last tip before we move on.
Okay,
and that is if you are using the new Bing, I recommend going to the hamburger menu in the top right corner of like the search site, and then go into the labs button, and you will see a chat response on result page button. I recommend selecting that to more frequent, and so you can get more frequent results. And I guess the other one is that instead of clicking the chat tab, you can just roll up on the mouse wheel, and even though it looks like nothing's there, it'll bring up the chat window into like a full window view, so it looks like ChatGPT kind of.
Good tool tips.
Yeah, I thought
much appreciated.
Yeah.
All right. Any other parting thoughts before we move along?
No, sir.
No. All righty. Cool. So, I guess it would be good to start with a definition of early access, and I feel like this is starting to spread out into the console space some. But
did we say what the topic was? Did I miss that?
Yeah, we said it was early access.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure. I'm so sorry. Please continue, Sean.
No, you're good, man. So early access is where developers will put out a game, and it's, it can range from like alpha to, just about done, but it sort of depends on the developer and the game. But basically, you garner funding or testing for a game, and a lot of times that rolls into developing and getting the game fully out. There's some debates, which is why we're here, about how that plays out. There's pros and cons to each, but it's certainly become more prevalent. I've seen way more early access games, and I've seen some heavy hitter developers put out early access games to sort of do some testing and things of that nature, which is different, and correct me if I'm wrong, from an actual beta that like a AAA title would do, because you're basically paying on the front end in order to get that access, and it may be good and it may be bad. You don't really know.
So I think that's actually, and it's maybe we can hop in here and add, I think, a little bit more granularity too, because Sean, I think you hit it pretty early on. You know, there are a couple different types of early access, and it's funny because we all play a lot of video games. All right. And when we first covered what the topic would be as we're prepping to, record, all right, and you say early access, the first thing that pops into my mind is like paying for early access. You know what I mean? As like a pre-order incentive, which there was a wave of games that did it for a couple years, and then it kind of went away. And now I feel like it still happens frequent enough for us to talk about it, in this manner, but not as frequent as it used to. So all that to say, there are different types of early access. Sean's mentioned, alphas, betas, and then, we have the paid, pre-order incentives, or, just the monetized early access to video games, straight and narrow, right? And so alphas and betas, though, just wanted to cover those really quick. Alphas are normally going to be one of the earliest builds of the game that's playable for the public, right? It's not for the public, but you're likely not going to play something that's earlier than an alpha for any game. Now, I'm not a video game developer, but I feel like I know enough, you know what I mean, to confidently say that. So those are your alphas, all right? Normally you have to, I guess if you're doing like, don't have to get into the weeds, I'll move on to betas. So betas they have a very wide window. Sometimes, and I feel like this is where Sean is going to inevitably get to, right? If it's not Sean, it'll just be the group organically, all right? But betas sometimes are miscategorized as betas, maybe to save face with the public because of how bad shape the game is in. But the beta phase would typically be the next stage after alpha. All right. And once your game is kind of in that beta phase, you're typically closer to launch. You know what I mean? A little bit closer to launch. And those are going to be the builds that the public is playing, I would say, most frequently if your game is in any kind of early access months before, launch. All right. So this is very generalized, but I did just want to throw those two things out there and really just slip that in before we got to the malicious use of that dumb word beta. Sean, please continue.
Yeah. No, you're good. No, it's a good distinction actually, because you were right. There is early access where, it's a good definition. What I had in mind a lot as well was the Steam PC version as well of early access, where, they just put it out there and go, hey, give us money and we're going to work out all the bugs, and then you'll get a fully baked game, or you might get some in-game content, or, reduced price on the full game or whatever. But I'm curious what our perceptions of pros and cons are for early access, and how we feel about it as a whole.
I think we should start with cons first.
Cons first. Interesting. Okay.
Absolutely. All right. Because
we already you suggested, I'm going to let you go first then.
That's perfect. And I just want to throw it. I feel like the group, maybe it's just my perception of early access. I feel kind of negative about early access, and I don't know, man. I feel like if a game is properly marketed, if we know the game is going to come out in early access, right? I think Xbox does a good job of this with some of the titles, that they have that they launch in early access. They're very easily tracked in the game store, and they've got like a game preview banner across like the title. So I know this game is an official early access. It's been released so that the community can help shape what the development of that game looks like, right? I think those things are okay. And I think what is not okay is Fallout 76, for example. I'm gonna throw this one back. Now I'm an avid fan of Fallout 76. Okay, I played in all of the betas that they had launched, the early access ones, the pre-order ones. Got them. All right, they were fantastic. And I was a little worried when I played the first game. Actually, I don't think I was, because it was, I mean, at this point, it had maybe been four months in advance, maybe 3 months. We were pretty far out still, had time. Okay. Then we get to the one that's like 2 weeks before the game launches, and there hasn't been any significant changes. And so now I'm like, well, I thought this was like a newer build. Like, what? It's okay. There's still like a month and a half left. They've got time to like polish some stuff. This is probably an old build. And we get to the game launch, and it feels the exact same. And so in my mind, like, that's a big con, right? Like, the Bethesda is launching a game, and it's going to call is, I guess not launching the game, right? But they're letting the community get their hands on what is pretty close to the final version of the game, throwing a beta sticker on there, right? So that they can use it as like a publicity shield to some of the bad feedback that they'll get. And then they can launch the game and make, whatever changes they want, that can drop the classification of a beta or what. I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling, but they're just like very malicious uses of early access and these beta titles, and even, the inverse. Sean, you made a joke about Warzone earlier, and I think that's a great example. Like, some of that game is broken. And a lot of the game is great, but some of that game is broken. And I feel like a game coming from a $1 billion publisher shouldn't launch in the state that, some parts of Warzone have. Right?
I don't think early access is for those folks, though. Like, they're using that term, they're using that ability to kind of sway the community and sway the consumer in an irresponsible way. Because I feel like the way that Steam's
that's what I'm
doing
saying. Yes.
100%.
Steam is doing it, in my opinion, for the companies, for these small time outfits that they don't have that marketing budget. They cannot go out and spend thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars like Activision can, Bethesda, all these guys, on saying, hey man, this really cool game's coming out. You guys should play it. Like, the first thing that comes to mind for me is Valheim. Valheim is phenomenal. It came out in early access.
Perfect.
It was a steal for $20. Absolutely steal. And the game has only gotten better. It saw massive success overnight. Obviously it helped that the game was good. But that's a company that would not have been able to put this game out had it not been for Steam's early access program. So, it's the whole early access definition. It's not, while it's used in many different cases, the meaning of it is not synonymous with how companies are leveraging that whole, because like we could even throw Hogwarts Legacy into that, because you pre-order it and you get early access. You get access 3 days ahead of time, guys. What a great pre-order bonus. There was really, no point in that besides to sell pre-orders, to sell more of the deluxe edition. That's all there really was to that. There was no other benefit. People just wanted to get their hands on it faster, and they paid the extra money to do so. So we're talking on that side of the spectrum, kind of like you were with Bethesda, and how they were kind of like using the Fallout fan base to test the game and kind of determine what direction they were going to take it, even though they didn't do it. Yeah. They still failed that, but then you have people, the small time folks, like people putting like Valheim together, and I'm trying to think of some other ones, Vampire Survivors, and there's so many that I've bought for dirt cheap, and I've put more time into some of these early access games than I put into the AAA titles from AAA studios.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what I guess that's where I was trying to go is, my general rule of thumb is, if a AAA is saying that their game is in early access and it's got a massive launch, something's wrong with that. I don't like that.
Yep.
But I do feel like it is a great opportunity, just like Brent said, for the smaller developers, the smaller teams, to literally build their games into something great. And Valheim, just speaking of that, it's got like an Xbox launch right around the corner. I think they're about to do like a big update. They're gonna do like cross crossplay, so you can play with PC and Steam users and stuff like that. So really cool stuff from a very, very small team that really benefited from that early access, like official stamp of approval from Steam. I guess that's something that you tend to get from, publishers like Steam or Xbox or any other publisher that does these, right? Like, okay, cool. If this is on Steam's platform, this is trustable. You know what I mean? Like they probably had to jump through some hoops to, I'll give this a try, right? I don't know. I'm trying to get into the mindset of like a PC gamer and how you guys look for games on Steam. I can't. I don't use Steam primarily, and there are thousands. Every time I open Steam, I'm confused. Not because the UI is difficult,
it's all
but there are
crowdsourced.
I'm overloaded.
It's
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. I mean, it's still all crowdsourced though. Someone's got to be the guinea pig.
Yeah,
someone's got to jump in there, buy it, download it, and be unhappy with it, and then pass that along in the reviews for other people to be like, "Oh, staying away from that one," or jump into the reviews and be like, "This is the best thing I've played, in a long, long time." Blah 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 blah, and then you're like, "Huh, that's intriguing." It's only $15-$20. I'm going to jump in and try. And don't forget too, Steam has the whole refund policy, no more than 2 hours, whatever. It's kind of no questions asked as long as you don't abuse it on a regular basis. So, I mean, you could jump in for an hour and be like, yeah, this ain't for me, refund it, and you're done with it. You're on to the next one. You know what I'm saying? So they've really kind of set it up for success.
My point is that I'm all right being the guinea pig for the little guy. I don't want to be the guiney pig for the big, dumb, ugly, greedy guy.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And with that, I actually have a question for you guys. So, and what I think it was Britt mentioned something about it, and I felt like I shrank in my seat. All right, because I paid for early access for Hogwarts. Okay,
I did too.
I am known to do that.
I'm not talking ill of people.
All right. No, of course. And so that's actually what I want to ask you is, how do you guys feel about like paying? I know some people are really upset at that. And I just feel like, listen, man, if somebody really wants to play that game and those 3 extra days, normally you're paying for a couple of days. All right. At max, I've seen it at like a week. All right.
Well, and it wasn't just
the extra $20 for you. That's true. There was some small stuff that I didn't use in the game at all. Right. And that's typically what happens. And I'm not complaining, but it just says, to me, I'm like, okay, cool. That's worth it to me. I'm going to pay the extra money so I can hop into this game that I've been excited for whatever. Do you guys, guys generally, okay, Sean, you hate it. All right. Brent, I feel like you agree with me. All right. Sean and Matt, I feel like you guys, this is going to be a classic. Sean, tell us. Let's go.
Yeah. All right. So here's the deal, right? It's your money, spend it like you want. But for me, I'm not going to pay more money just to get to the game early. I have no desire at all.
So do you hate the whole idea, or are you? I can't tell if you're if you're being a Scrooge right now. Are you saying like I don't want it, so no one should have it?
I think it's a gimmicky market tactic to add an extra $20 or so onto the game. You know what I mean? Like if I'm going to pay that much more, I want more than just time. Because at the end of the day, what's a couple hours of you playing going to really make the difference here? Now, it depends on the game, so I'll give you that. That's fair. It depends on the type of game. For me, if it's an RPG game, it's not going to make any sort of difference to me.
And
because
Sean,
I'm going to either put the 100 hours in or I'm not.
And I'm also, this is not a joke. I'm not trying to insult you, Sean, at all. All right. This is for the audience, not for you, Sean. I don't think you're going to take, no, I'm not. What I was going to say is, all right, is it takes Sean damn near 3 days anyway to download a game. So he would pay $20 just to start the download early and play it on launch day. Right. So, and Sean, I feel
but even if I had the internet, I still wouldn't do it. Like I still wouldn't.
Okay. All right. Okay. I guess that was what I was getting to. So if you had the internet, you wouldn't do it.
Because at the end of the day,
then
if the game is worth its salt, right? What's a couple hours? That's not worth $20 to me. Like
I'm a big believer of the vote with your wallet. You know what I mean? If I feel like a game at this point, you know what I mean? If I feel, and at this point, we've watched enough video games at the AAA level, the indie level, all levels. All right, we don't even have a AA space anymore. All right. But as far as AAAs are concerned, we've seen those things, crash and burn. We've seen this marketing shift where, games like Hogwarts are so eager for people to want to play their game and like their game, and with all of the different social issues surrounding this game and other controversies is the word that I was looking for. They went out of their way to say, this is what our game is. This is what you can do in this game. Like just great coverage. So you knew what you were getting when you hopped into it.
Deserves the money. They deserve it, man.
Absolutely. They've done great stuff. They did the Tomb Raider games. I think they've done, in some way, shape, or form, they've been attached to the Just Cause games. And Mad Max. Mad Max is a fantastic game.
Oh, that was a cool game.
It's so good. And so what I'm getting at here is in an industry like today, right, where every other game is live service and we're constantly being, kind of poked and prodded at for microtransactions. It's nice to see a complete single player experience come out and say, hey, look, if you really care about it, you can give us a little bit extra money. You can play it like 4 days early.
So,
all right. And
let me ask you this.
That's their
perspective. Could you not consider that early access another microtransaction?
I could, but what I'm saying in my mind is perspective is this is a microtransaction I'm willing to pay, right? I may not be the whale, right, for this company, but I'll put a little extra in because I like Avalanche's work. I want them to continue to do well, and like we've seen it time and time again, where a big massive game like Hogwarts comes out, it fails, and then that studio gets absorbed by another one to do QA work or something small. QA is not terrible work. I'm not, dismissing anybody in that field. I'm just, they become like a backseat developer, right? And they're not really making games anymore. I don't want that to happen. So I'm saying, hey, Avalanche, I know you're a great studio. I'm expecting this game to be good because the last games, that I've played from your, portfolio have also been good. I'll pay you a little extra. This is good faith. You know what I mean? And the return that I'm expecting is a good game.
And that's
I don't know
fine.
if that makes sense.
Again, like I prefaced at the beginning, it's your money. You spend it the way you want to. But if I had my druthers, I would put that money towards smaller developers, personally. But that's just me.
Which is totally fine. I'm just trying to figure out, Sean, if you're saying, you know what, it's fine, because you were about to say we're getting into the weeds, which is cool because we'll go back and forth for another 40 minutes. Yeah.
Yes, we will.
Matt, let's hear from you. What do you think, Matt? Oh, unless Sean, you wanted to move on completely. I'm all over the place. I'm so sorry.
No, I was actually about to ask Matt. So yeah, we're good.
Perfect, Matt. Tell us, Matt.
I guess how do I feel about the extra $10 for Hogwarts? I also paid it. I have what I consider to be a unique reason.
Let's go.
Got him. You weren't suspecting that. So I did have a unique reason for playing it. It's because I did want to play this game. It looked pretty nice. The reviews came out and they basically said, hey, it looks as good. Like it plays as good as it looks. It's
a really good game.
All of it's a pretty good game, man. I mean, there's some minor bugs and glitches I've run into, but gosh, nothing game breaking, which is almost unheard of. And I feel like they made a bunch of promises and then they kept them. It's quite astounding. I don't think I've seen this in a while. So, I paid the extra $10. I did it almost explicitly because I knew my friends were all going to do it, and they were going to have 3 days up on the game. And I know it's not a multiplayer game, but I know that eventually my friend group's going to get tired with this, and then they're going to start cycling over to other games. And I don't want to still be doing this game as my friend group starts cycling to their next game, which may or may not be multiplayer, who knows? And then it might be
peer pressure.
This is I was just about to say it. It's the social pressure,
man. It's weird. Like I hate calling it peer pressure because none of my friends are like, "Hey, Matt, you should do this." Right?
But you're totally. I know other people that are like this. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm planning it out. Like I'm planning it out, right? Because I know the next thing I'm going to do after this, I'm probably going to play Atomic Hearts. And, maybe some of my friends will play Atomic Hearts. Right. And
Yeah.
you know, after that, who knows what I'm gonna play? I've got to fill time until Diablo 4 drops. And so,
Hopefully,
I mean,
Starfield
that's what I'm
will
doing.
be in the mix there to help you out there.
They're man, they haven't released a date yet. They're just saying 2023. You know it's going to get pushed. I mean, I don't want to say that. It'll probably be pushed, man.
There are a lot of rumors right now
or
that it's going to get pushed.
I haven't seen any rumors at all, for the record. I'm
going to throw up. I'm going to bed every night nauseous.
I just don't look at it, man. I don't even know anything about the game. I know that.
All right, boys, we're getting in the weeds. We're getting in the weeds.
Sorry. Talking about stuff that doesn't matter. I don't know, man. We could pivot right now to Robert Space Industries and their competitor to Starfield. I feel like that's an okay place to go. What's anybody got it on the tip of their tongue? What the name
Star
is
Citizen?
of the game I'm talking? Star Citizen. All right, this is wonderful to talk about. I know it's off topic.
Absolutely,
but it's good.
it is.
So Star
It's
Citizen
on topic as well.
Yeah, it is. It is on topic. It's just not where Sean wanted to go. So, Star Citizen is
Rip me.
is this massive space sim shooter, like really heavy physics based. Looks phenomenal. Looks so beautiful. People say it's great. It's been in early access for like 5 effing years. So. I mean, what do you do with that, man? Like, you can pay, like, I'm not joking, you can pay like $300+ to buy different ships in this game and gain access to, like, not just skins, but ships. And
It sounds like EVE Online.
I mean, it's 5 years later. There's supposed to be a single player component called Squadron 42 that has some amount of complete. I don't really know. It's been some amount of complete for like 3 freaking years.
Star Citizen is really a mess, and Sean, there really is the reason that Matt and I'm going to co-sign here myself. So Matt and I, right, kind of shifted down this area for the listener here. Star Citizen was a community-backed game, and I really just want to talk about Squadron 42 for a second, which had this massive cast like Mark Hamill, Henry Cavill, John Malkovich, like a massive star-studded cast. There is a trailer for this that we'll link into the show notes. Matt, if you haven't seen this yet, it is insane. All right, but
I haven't seen it.
They actually the game dev like got taken to court by like Crytek because they were building the game off of their engine and they failed to deliver the game in the time that they would. And the game is also mainly community funded, and it's been a game that's been in development for, man, I don't know, you said 5+ years. I thought it was closer to 10.
5+.
A very long time.
Yeah.
A very, very long time. And the full game has not been, dropped or launched. Squadron 42 there's not been official word on that game in a very long time. And I think at this point, I'm going to look for a link. Sean's telling us here in the back, hey, we got to keep track because we are throwing a lot of these links. It's crazy. But I think at this point, like millions of dollars have been poured into Star Citizen's development for an unfinished game that like a lot of people are playing. And so when you talk about like actual paid early access and the bad kinds, Star Citizen is doing... It is showing the industry how to do that the wrong way, which really was the key point of bringing that up in our wonderful topic today about video games and early access.
They got over $2 million from
Don't
the
do that.
from
You've
the
already got another
Kickstarter
bad.
campaign. So
That's
there
a lot
you
of
go.
money.
Over $2 million for
money.
Kickstarter. It was. I remember when this happened. I was so excited. I was like, "Oh my god, they're so successful!" They were shooting for $500,000. They said we can do it for $500,000, and they got $2 million. And this is what and what we've got is a half-baked game that if you get into the community, the people just love it. It's kind of like an EVE situation though, where the learning curve is real nasty because of the realism components. So I mean, like a lot, it's hard for me to be like, is this good? Is this bad? I don't know. There's a lot of love in it, and it feels like there is. If you're into PvP space fighting sims and you want the hardcore experience, I think that there is a playable game here for you. I don't know how baked the game is, but I think it's playable, but it's not what was promised, right? I mean, I feel like the promise was basically what Starfield is supposed to deliver to some degree. You fly around in a ship, you can fly to anywhere, you can land anywhere. I don't know if Starfield actually promises these things, right? Oh, maybe it does, but I mean, like, this is what like Star
Some
Citizen
small
was
form of
promising.
that.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I thought, and I don't know, man. It's a good example of, early access that, like, I mean, it started in 2016. They're not like anywhere near a real release date. There is none, as far as I'm aware. Like, how long are you going to be in early access? Are you?
It's great that we can quote, or we can both, tell stories. And I know this is one that Brent and Sean are in the loop for as well, that we can talk about horror stories like Star Citizen and still willingly, like, I'm going to pay $20 extra for this game because it's too big to fail. You know what I mean? Like, good faith, whatever the reason may be, Star Citizen exists and there are millions of dollars, behind that game. And it's playable. You know what I mean? But it's not. We're not anywhere close to what was originally promised in the time frame that was promised. And I know that day one game launches tend to be a little different. But I thought that was funny to point that out. Throw myself under the bus.
I mean, every company treats it differently. That's the funny thing about it. Like,
that's true.
Another good example before we move on is Battlestate Games with Escape from Tarkov. That game has technically been in closed beta / early access since July of 2017. And we're still in closed beta / early access of that game. People play that as their primary game. I mean, there's a ton of content there technically for what it is. But once again, it's closed beta. Like, and it's paid closed beta. Like, the gate is go pay minimum of $40. You get access to the closed beta.
That's true. Yeah.
And you get a few amount of perks, but the person that goes in there and spends $150 for closed beta gets a whole bunch of perks. They get, more storage space, and they get faster XP gain on certain stuff, and they get access to this thing and access to that thing. And so, like, when does that end? I'm talking almost 6 years at this point that game's been rolling in quote unquote closed beta or early access. It's a little ridiculous.
And I don't know, do you guys play Tarkov? Because I feel like that is one of the ones that's, when I hear about Tarkov, I'm not hearing about it in the same light that I'm hearing about, a game like Star Citizen. You know what I mean? So do you guys play that enough to feel like it warrants having that closed beta title? Does it feel pretty polished? Or?
I don't think it's a closed beta anymore. I've played games that are full releases that are way less polished than Escape from Tarkov is at this point.
Heard that.
Fair enough. And just like you said, Brent, it's like everybody handles it differently, right? So that early access means different things to different publishers, different developers.
Yeah, I mean, that studio may never consider it done. It may always be in closed beta to them. They may never consider it a full release. When does it go gold?
Continual work in
no
progress. Clue. Right.
Well, so here's the thing, right? For me, and this kind of tying all of this together, I agree with what Brent said earlier. I think for big developers, no. Like, if you have the fundage to do this, you can have like a beta-ish period, but when you release that game, it needs to be full. Small developers, perfectly fine with it. And if you're getting the experience that you want out of the game, I don't necessarily care. Like, if you're cool with paying that money and you feel like it's worth it, great. But if I'm paying an exorbitant amount of money, Call of Duty, to have a AAA title, I expect it to be AAA. We've gotten so far, and our expectations, I feel like, have gotten so burnt on the gaming industry right now that that's why I tend to lean more towards indie games, or early access developers that are smaller, like on Steam and things of that nature, because I just don't feel like I'm getting my money's worth out of some of these games that I'm buying here. But I agree. I think there does need to be a certain cutoff point. But honestly, at the end of the day, if I'm getting the content out of the game, I'm cool with it, for sure.
Heard. That's it. At the end of the day.
Yeah, that's it. So really quickly, there was one final point that I wanted to go through with you guys, and some games that you've bought early access that you loved, and games that you bought that were horrible, like 1 or 2 examples. So, for instance, for me, there's a couple. Factorio was one. It was an early access game, absolutely mind-blowing. I spent like over 300 hours in that game, and I spent very, very little money for it. It was fantastic, and it just keeps iterating and growing and getting better. Deep Rock Galactic, that was another one that I still have a lot of hours in and still love. I haven't really run into any bad games yet because, and this is one of the things I like about early access is you can go ahead and start getting those comments rolling, and people are like, no, this is absolute dog water. Like, I'm not playing this game. And so you at least have some of the, I've been fortunate enough to stay away, but I like Subnautica. There's another one. It was phenomenal early access game that turned into a whole series. So what are some of the games that you've played that are early access that were good or bad?
I guess I'll hop in here. I got some good ones. RimWorld, man, that's a banger of a game.
I've seen some good things about that game.
You would love that game. You would love RimWorld. You should.
So you keep telling me.
Yeah. Valheim, that was early access. That was a peer pressure buy, and that was a pretty good peer pressure buy. So thank you, peers who pressured me.
That was Brent.
I got Dead
like
Cells.
That was almost 1,000% Brent. I'm pretty sure.
It was. It was. Well, yeah, but everybody else did it too. And
then fake news.
Right. This is fake news. Okay. Dead Cells. Dead Cells, really amazing game. Got it early access. Just great game. As for bad ones, I don't really have a ton of bad ones. I basically do not purchase early access. And the reason I don't is because if I go through the game and I beat the game once, unless it's like a real banger, I'm probably not running through a second time. And so I don't want to like leave it undone, but I also don't want to like you know, like have to come back and do it all again. Some early access, sometimes you lose your save progress. Right. And, you know, like a lot of them are like, we don't promise your saves will work tomorrow. Good luck. It's just how it is. So I don't really have a lot of negative experiences because I don't really like partake, if you will. So that's my 2 cents.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm a just lead with my worst, and definitely Anthem. I think in the recent recent past that I can think of. Okay. And you want to talk about like launch problems? I couldn't even get into the game.
Studio again,
like,
though.
Yeah, it was BioWare, man. It was BioWare.
That's what I'm saying, though.
Behind one of the greatest series of all time, Mass
EA.
Effect. All right. Listen, I get it, but all I'm saying is that game was riddled with problems. All right. And it was, I don't remember if I took the day off. I might have been in school. I don't remember if I might have skipped class, and half the day was gone because I couldn't get into the game. I couldn't play the campaign. It required an always online connection, and half the day was gone. So I don't even remember the other days of the early access period because I was so mad about day one. It was also a disappointing. I finished that cover to cover, and it was just a terrible game. So I wish I didn't buy that. All my experiences, though, have been kind of hit or miss. Hogwarts was a really good one. And I'm going to cross my fingers and keep them crossed that the next early access game I sink my money into is not a waste of time. I'm going to just leave it at that. Anthem is terrible. Don't play that game.
You know, I never even got a chance to jump into it, man. By the time I was like, man, let me try it out. They're like, yeah, we're pulling the plug on Anthem. I'm like, man, all right, well,
dude,
I guess I dodged a bullet there.
Yeah, there was some cool stuff, but they definitely needed time, and it was just released too soon, I think. So yeah, don't waste your time now, though. It's such a disappointment.
I don't even think it exists anymore, does it? It's gone.
No, it's gone. It's gone.
Yeah, it's gone. It's our
Is it like gone for real?
Yeah, no, it's gone.
Man, they pulled the plug for real.
Yeah, no, it's
oh
toast.
Man.
But
That's
I
crazy.
already mentioned Valheim. I'm the same way. Like I was just saying, I let other people be the guinea pig. I've not bought an early access title that I did not intend on playing. Like there wasn't some content there to enjoy right now. And I think a part of me almost enjoys that kind of like that process even more, is like, okay, for this 15, 20 bucks, 30 bucks, whatever, here's what I get now. Is it worth it? Absolutely. If I get anything along that early development cycle additional than what I just bought, I feel like I've gotten my money's worth right there. And a lot of these games have done that for me. Ready or Not is one of the ones I've paid 30 bucks for. It's a really cool SWAT simulator. They've got more content in it right now. I'm itching to try that at some point. Matt plays that as well. We got a couple other people that play that. It's one of those things. It's like, okay, we've kind of played all the content that's there. And then 6 months later, like, yeah, we got this big update. We've got 6 new, scenarios or maps. And we're like, yes, it makes the game fresh again. You're ready to go back to it. And that was all part of their original developmental cycle anyways. Like that was part of the original game. But the way that we look at it as the consumer and the gamer is like, oh, cool. We get more content of this platform that we like, in addition to like all the fixes. What else? V Rising's another cool one that I bought that I like a lot. I need to put more time into that. That's had a lot of updates.
Yeah,
really good.
I forgot about that one. Really good.
Grounded was a Microsoft early access title, and that's a phenomenal game.
Oh, absolutely.
The one where
that's done by Obsidian. Fantastic.
Yeah, that's a great game. Great game. I think Everspace 2 was actually early access, and maybe even the original. That's a great game.
Yeah.
1
and 2.
Those are great games. Really enjoy those a lot.
Was.
Kind of a roguelite kind of space game. And there's a ton of them. But like I said, as the consumer, especially if you're not like looking at the news and stuff like we are all the time and kind of like really reading all these things, go look at the Steam reviews. You don't have to be the first guy in line or gal in line buying this title. Just wait a little bit. Give it a week. Give it 2 weeks. People are going to jump in those reviews and they're going to tell you how much they love it, or they're going to tell you how much they hate it. And there's going to be plenty of content out there for you to go look at on YouTube. Oh, yeah. There's going to be trolls. Don't get me wrong. There's tons of trolls in the Steam comments. But there's absolutely no reason for you to go around slinging money, hoping that it sticks to one game out of the 10 that you spend money on. There's social media is out there in all shapes and forms. People are going to tell you whether you should spend money on it or not. It's kind of a great time to live in for that reason alone. Like you're getting some, in many cases, you're getting some great content for a very little amount of money. So it's a great time to be a gamer, really. You just have to be smart about it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I agree with all of that. Fantastic. Well, boys, that's all I had, unless you have anything else.
What a great episode.
Nothing from
I love episodes about video games. I just want to talk about video games and nothing else.
I like the ones that are off the cuff, right? I like the base reactions. Tends to get a little heated sometimes, so that's why I like to keep it a little not so scripted for some of them. You know what I mean? Well, as always, everybody, thank you for listening. We appreciate it. Stop in the Discord. Tell us any of the good or bad experiences you've had with early access games. Tell us your thoughts about it. Tell us, ChatGPT, you using it, how you like it, whether or not you're doing the Bing integration, all that fun stuff. And like I said, we appreciate it, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Yeah, tell us what games you're playing too. We always love to talk about games.
I said goodbye too early. Sure. I stepped all over Brent. I said goodbye too early. Oh, damn. All right, my bad, all right. Brent.
Bye.
That's what. Bye.
Bye.